I have Matthew with me today, founder of Building Incorporated. Matthew, thank you so much for coming on my podcast. I'm definitely excited for more people to learn a little bit more about you and what your company does.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Tyson. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Well, let's jump right into it. So maybe we can start by you just telling me a little bit more about what, Building Incorporated does and maybe, a little bit about what your day-to-day in the company, looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So, 4.5 years ago, I recognized that there were a couple changes happening in real estate and commercial real estate specifically, which was the digitization of the industry. So, a lot of information was going from paper and pencil and very, what would be the word? Very old fashioned, I think is the way to describe the industry. Analog is the word I was thinking of, to computerized, digitized, the high speed, modernized way to actually communicate information. But it requires quite a leap to get to this point because whether it's the way that we're designing buildings or the permitting process and actually being on the job site, it tends to be very tactile. And so there was a lot of infrastructure that had to change, a lot of processes and software that had to catch up. But we wanted to position ourselves in a way that we could capture that transition and, most importantly, tap into a resource that was being realized, which is data. Data is the new oil, is what a lot of people say. And I think it's a great analogy because it's all around us. You can tap into it and extract it from the earth or from your real estate properties. You can refine it and you can start to do stuff with that. What it is you want to do is what we help out with, because you could use data for building your properties, for investing in properties, managing them. There's quite an assortment, but we wanted to guide people through that process, give them a way to give a home to that data and then make decisions off of that. And that's what building specializes in, amongst a number of other things that's catering to technological trends and blockchain and AI.
Wow, that's super awesome, man. And then, yeah, that's very interesting. Because I have, a few clients for my marketing businesses that, one of them is a real estate developer, another one is a custom home builder, and they use a lot of financial tech software to help them, keep track and have financial transparency with their clients who, maybe paid cash to have a luxury home built, or, they're in the middle of a long development project. If I'm like a real estate developer or I'm somebody in commercial real estate, if I came to you, what are usually like the top few things that you see that like, solutions that your company, helps them with?
Well, the bottom line for a real estate developer or an asset manager is that they're looking for scalability. They want to grow their operations faster, and that means they need to have a really good grasp of what's going on around them, all the information, all the people, all the different phases of projects, and the moving parts there. And the best way to coordinate that is first getting it all into one place.
Yeah.
There's siloed systems and information it's very disparate. And so the first thing that we present to them is this data room, a virtual data room where your software can connect to, whether it's for finance or just a repository, an online repository where you're uploading files, you're letting it sit there. Well, that's great, but you need to be organized. And especially as you go out and you raise capital, if you need $100 million for a project, the institutions are going to expect you to be organized in a certain way. And you would think a lot of real estate developers are a little bit more prepared for this, but because there really aren't industry standards, they're not. And it varies from deal to deal. So we're helping them to organize that information, to structure it. So data could be in text messages or images or documents and files. And it's just really difficult for people to read. So get it into rows and columns and make sense of it. Then, most importantly, creating a valuation for that property. Value is everything. And overlooking certain data could change what that end result is. Could be by $1 million. Right. So we want to make sure that we're getting our ducks in a row. And if we are calculating a valuation for this property or going through the appraisal process, we can track all that information coming in and make the most compelling argument for the valuation, and even up to generally accepted accounting principle standards, because they do say how to value things. And so we help real estate developers there. And then finally, the analysis of data. You can organize it, clean it, but what are you going to do with it? Well, this is another area where we step in, whether it's checking for compliance, making decisions, predictions, and just ensuring a more streamlined and successful real estate development and operational process.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, no, that's definitely helpful. I mean, yeah, everything you said is 100% true. And I know at least for a lot of the people that I work with, or, the main clients that are, commercial real estate developers, they're like super busy throughout their day, or, they've kind of have a team that's trying to keep track of all of their data. And you mentioned like you have almost like a data warehouse for them where they can sync up all their softwares and have everything into one place. Is that maybe like an app or like a website? Is it something that you guys build out for them or?
Yes, so that is our platform, and we connect it to whatever server they're already using. The thing that's very important and unique about us is that the client maintains control of their data. And we're a global company, and so when we're going across borders, there's very particular laws and regulations about how data can be stored, the privacy, the intellectual property, where those servers can be located. And so we're very conscientious of that. So the client is holding on to that data. They're connecting to our platform, where then we take all that disparate, disorganized data and start to organize it based off of the phases of the project. So if I'm an accountant, an attorney, someone performing a third-party audit, I'm a bank, I'm an insurance company, or an investor, I know exactly where to navigate for my information. And we go a step further and then verify all of those documents. And this is, I'm going to use the word blockchain. A lot of people start to get iffy feelings when they hear that, but this is a really good enterprise use case for the technology, just to say we went through the hassle of making sure that this document is verified and immutable, because that's just the nature of the technology. And this adds a lot of trust and transparency to an industry that is usually struggling with trust issues, to say the least.
1,000%. Yeah, no, that is awesome. And so are you, once this data is, categorized, organized, and you guys help them analyze it, are you working with some of these commercial real estate businesses? Let's just say they're looking to go raise capital. Are you guys kind of helping them leverage that data to go ahead and pitch their projects to raise that capital?
Absolutely. So that is a cornerstone of what the platform can do. Not
Awesome.
only do we have the connections to facilitate all of that, but we do have what's called a tokenization integration. So as a little bit of background, finance is changing. I call it the fourth industrial revolution, which is how we used to own things is rapidly becoming digitized because it's easier to manage, there's potentially more liquidity, and it's a more globalized economy in that way. And so something as simple as equity and debt, which has been around for thousands of years, is now starting to be moved onto a blockchain. It's cutting out intermediaries, it's allowing for faster settlement times and more transparency. And so we want to equip real estate developers with that tool, because you could take plain old subscription agreement, so I get a PDF that says I own this, and digitize that, turn it into something that's equivalent to a share in a stock market where it has real-time pricing, we can exchange it, but it's for a market that has never seen that type of versatility or transparency. Real estate doesn't function in that way. So we do present that opportunity to them as well. And the greatest underlying factor for being transparent, having a lower cost of capital, and having your ducks in a row is because people will give you money. So we absolutely encourage them to take all this organization and go to a bank or go to an investor, insurance company, and seek the capital they need.
Absolutely. Yeah, that trust and that credibility that's built just by having all of your data organized, and it all makes sense from a logical standpoint. I think that that's huge. That's probably one of the most important things that I found when talking to my clients about, raising capital for their projects. Another, quick question I wanted to ask you was, where are like, if there's a commercial real estate business or a developer, like how are they finding out about what you guys do? I know that you do some speaking, kind of like we talked about before the podcast here, some in-person networking events. Where, can more people find out about what you guys are doing? Are you doing like any kind of outreach? I come from a marketing background, so that's always interesting to me to kind of see like what you guys are working on, or maybe if you can kind of walk me through like what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. We're on a shoestring budget, so when it comes to outreach, I'm very particular about how it's done.
Yeah.
And when it comes to marketing in general, I actually prefer inbounds because it generally doesn't cost me anything to do that. I can post on LinkedIn, I can speak at an event, or I can host our podcast. And what this does is it separates the wheat from the chaff. It's bringing forward the innovative, forward thinking real estate developers who already are interested in those concepts and they reach out to me. That's a much easier sell than going to a real estate developer, not knowing what their tech stack looks like or what their ambitions and goals are, and
Right.
trying to pitch technology or change. It can create a lot of hesitancy. However, if they see me on LinkedIn and they think, wow, I really want to scale faster, take things to the next level, I'm going to reach out. Well, naturally, it makes my job much easier to sell, which
Yeah.
is fundamentally what I have to do. And I'm not a salesman by trade. I know that I've done a lot of public speaking, and people think I could sell quite easily, but I like to build that relationship. I'm not pulling any tricks out my sleeves or selling you a used car. So it really helps when we have more inbound. I think it aligns interests much better.
1,000%. Yeah, I've talked to a fair share of real estate investors as well, and I noticed there is a huge mindset shift between you can tell who's looking to truly scale and who isn't, and kind of like you said, who has the tech stack to do so, or who it makes more sense for. So I assume, you probably can't work with everybody that reaches out to you or comes to you maybe for your guys' solutions. Like even though, you might want to, do you ever, run into that? Like maybe they're just not at that stage yet or kind of have a foundation to begin to scale?
Actually, I would say no. We do accept anyone, even if they're more institutional or smaller real estate developer, which a lot of people would say you ought to niche down. And I agree with that and I respect that. But what's interesting is we're finding more use cases for our technology every single day and discovering that it can be used on different types of properties we never imagined. It's a data management platform. We thought it was going to be perfect for data rich properties. So talking, quarter billion dollars of a development, complex, a lot of moving parts. But even on the smaller scale properties, they still want to organize better. And for property owners who might have 20 or 30 of those small properties, that data adds up. And so we started to think we might as well expand our scope and see if we can add value outside of where we expected. And they're willing to pay.
Nice. Yeah, man, you kind of just have to test different things out in the market. That's everybody says to niche down or even, niche down to a sub niche but you'll kind of that's the same thing, with on my end. I just try to test different things and kind of see what works or like you mentioned, what kind of use cases you can get to try and find that success. But kind of transitioning, what are some goals for building incorporated in the next 12 months related to growth? Are you guys looking to maybe acquire more clients? Is it more of like a revenue type of goal? Like do you have any, I guess, quantifiable goals in the next 12 months?
Yeah, absolutely. We're tracking very closely the number of real estate developers and the number of properties that each real estate developer brings on. Uh, and we can quantify that as the total assets under management or assets onboarded to the platform. So we're watching that to see how well we can scale. And we have our internal milestones that we'd like to hit.
Nice.
Outside of that, some more qualitative things, just our perception in the market and educating people on these topics and having that sort of exposure. And maybe that comes in as followers somewhere or subscriptions to a newsletter. But ultimately, to me, it's the level of comfort that people have with new technology. Because if the use cases speak for themselves and the value add is obvious, they don't care that it's new or different than what they're used to. They will adopt it because they want to save time, money, and add value to their properties.
1,000%. Yeah. And that makes sense too. If they can see that it works, then even though it might be different than what they're using now, they know that that's what they're going to need to scale. So it just
Right.
makes perfect sense. That's awesome. And yeah, if people want to reach out and connect with you, where would they go, or like what would be the best place, I guess, for them? I know that we got into contact on LinkedIn, but is it social media? Is it email? Like what would be the best place for people to go to get in touch with you?
Well, we're active all over the place. So our website has a lot of great information. So if people want to scan that before they reach out to us, that's building.inc, INC. Otherwise, LinkedIn is a great spot. I'm active on there. I've got a bit of a following. And then, of course, our company is on there as well. If you type in Matthew Schneider, and I'm sure we'll have a link in the show notes for this, but if you type in my name, you'll see my smiling profile picture. And I talk a lot about things that are happening in the industry, trends, educational content, and a lot of the milestones that we have. Going back to the previous question, there's a number of pitch competitions, speaking opportunities, new strategic partnerships, and new clients that we're expecting in our roadmap. So it's going to be very exciting. And I certainly encourage people to join along, whether that's because they want to be part of a case study, they want to elevate their business, they're looking to invest, or whatever that might be. We're on YouTube as well, and our website has all of those social media links if they want to reach out to us, including contact forms and other means of getting in touch, like scheduling calls.
Yeah, no, that's very awesome. Yeah, I know we talked a little bit before the podcast, but you do have an opportunity to potentially, build some partnerships internationally, and maybe raise capital for your guys' business. So yeah, Matthew's got a ton of awesome stuff going on when it comes to his LinkedIn, and I didn't know that you guys were on YouTube, so I'll definitely be checking out your YouTube. But I'll be sure to link all of your social media and additional information in the description of this YouTube video, and as well on any kind of post that I make on social media. But Matthew, it was a pleasure doing this podcast with you. I'm definitely looking forward to keeping track of your journey and follow along with everything that you do. But I really appreciate you coming on, and yeah, I just wanted to tell you thank you again.
Well, absolutely. This was very rapid fire, short, sweet, and to the point. So it's a unique change of pace when it comes to podcasts. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. But we'll definitely stay in touch. And, for everybody else, we'll see you on the next episode.